it's in the undoing is sort of where
Yes.
you are,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Look at that. You got a big thumbs
I
up.
know,
You got a big thumbs up.
I'm learning. But yeah, I think it's like that idea of like unbecoming all the things that you think you're supposed to be, or you have, all these pressures to be, and just undoing all of that.
Right.
Just undoing it.
Yeah, there's nothing actually to learn. That's
I
the truth.
know.
I know. True.
It's just a case of unbundling and simplifying.
Right.
And realizing that all this stuff isn't who you are.
Hey, everybody. I'm Laura Schulweiss.
And I'm Jen Giammo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you. And don't forget, if you want to watch this episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Yes. Every week we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today we are talking to a spiritual companion, teacher of presence, breathwork practitioner. He's the founder and pioneer behind Pilgrim Breath, and he trained with Eckhart Tolle.
Wow. He is the author of the new book, Just One Conscious Breath, the profoundly simple practice that moves you from reaction to response. Please welcome our guest today, Michael Wood. Michael, welcome. Welcome to Everybody Talks.
Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, I want to talk about, we want to talk about the book, and I also want to talk about your work with autistic kids. We can kind of get into that a little bit later, but I just have some questions about that. But let's start with just a little bit more about you and how you got started in this.
Yeah.
So it's a life of three halves, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I like that.
The first of the three halves was in marketing in London, in my mid-20s to early 30s. And I enjoyed it, but I realized I wasn't really cut out for office life. So, but one thing I really did enjoy was training people. So I decided that actually perhaps education was more my calling. So I sold the flat in London and up sticks and went to the Lake District and retrained as a primary school teacher, and had a couple of years teaching there. And then really my heart was sort of, Ireland was calling me. I've always loved Ireland, and I've moved to Ireland, and I started working with adults with autism and learning disabilities. And that then became sort of a very happy 25 years of education in special needs in Ireland, culminating, this is the second of the three halves, culminating in becoming a principal of a school for children with autism and special needs. And that was very profound. I think the non-speaking, I know we'll talk about this later, but the non-speaking autistic children sort of became my teachers, actually. They went to school, but I did the learning. Mm-hmm. And it was a very good time. And then I've always had, so the third half is now. I've moved on from that job, and I've always had an interest in the spiritual world. My great-grandfather was the chief druid of England, and he celebrated the summer solstice in Stonehenge in 1925, 100 years ago exactly. So I've always had that interest, and I've been meditating for 30 years. And I got into breath work and studied with Eckhart Tolle during COVID. So that was a good thing to come out of COVID. And I deepened my breath work, and I entered a series of 10 conscious connected breathwork sessions with a wonderful American breathwork teacher, Biddy Damsby, in London on a barge.
That's funny.
It was funny, actually, because it was actually only 2 miles upstream from where I was born many moons ago. That's funny how things
everything circles about.
Yeah, exactly, Laurie. Things circle about, and so I circled about, and it was quite profound for me, actually. About the eighth or ninth session, I kind of realized that at the end of the session that I'd been gone for a while. Michael had been gone, but I was aware that I was being breathed, so that I could look out at myself and see that there was an awareness looking in. And I kind of realized that it was all flow. The River Thames was flowing under the boat. And especially when other boats passed, it would rock, and you could look up at the slatted wooden roof of the barge and see I was just flowing. And I also profoundly felt I'd let go and I was flowing from my heart, which is, I think, the destination. It's the reason why we meditate or do yoga or whatever. It's to get to our heart. That's the destination. That's the only journey we need to take, really, is to get out of our head and into our heart. So from there, long story, but from there, the book emerged. And I just found myself in my last year of being the principal. I get up early, but I got up sort of 4:00, and I just literally, for about 2 or 3 months, I just wrote. And the book came out of that. The writing was easy. It's the after stuff. It's the editing and editing and editing.
It's very arduous.
Yeah. But it was productive, and I was helped by some really lovely people, all women, actually. And there was someone in Australia, someone in South Africa, someone in Texas, someone in Barcelona.
Wow.
It was a lovely experience. Yeah.
That sounds like the pinnacle of enlightenment, like what you just
really
described.
Does, yeah.
Sort of looking at yourself from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I, have been doing meditation for years and years and years, and I still struggle with that kind of feeling of, am I doing it right? Am I there?
Yeah.
But I want to get into that, and I want to get into the book. You talk about the power of mindful breathing. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
I think breath is so powerful because it's a portal between us and our awareness. It's the only thing that we can both consciously and unconsciously do. We can't consciously circulate our blood, and we can't consciously digest our food. It happens unconsciously. But we can both consciously and unconsciously breathe. So it becomes an opportunity for us to be on the outside and look in. So we become the observer. And when we do that, we introduce space and perspective into our world. And we can just take a breath and think, actually, what's the best thing for me now? It's sometimes it's not always what your head is telling you to do. So I think that's where the whole idea of just one conscious breath came from, is that with just one breath, you can step out and have the awareness looking in. And from that, I was thinking of, we're mammals, and so are dolphins, but dolphins can only consciously breathe, and they have to come up for air every 8 minutes.
Yes.
They've got a blowhole, which is their nose, and they've got, lungs. But they take a big inhale of air, and then they dive back into their life for 8 minutes.
Wow.
And so I tried doing that. I just tried to surface for air every 8 minutes. I sort of like a dolphin breath. I sort of this idea to myself of just becoming a land dolphin, and just every 8 minutes, I just consciously just try and come up for air. And I tried to train myself in that by an alarm going off every 8 minutes or so.
Do you actually set an alarm, or are you able to just know now when the 8 minutes is up?
It happens, yeah. It's kind of become trained, and I probably do it more than every 8 minutes. You'll probably hear me doing it in this.
Okay.
Because it's a good way to just stop and pause and think, is this really what needs to be said, or what because you want to do your best in the moment. And that is, I think, to come from your heart and not your head. And I think that if you just take a breath out, you just give yourself that chance.
Yeah, I feel
Sure,
myself like
I know.
doing it now, but I
definitely.
think it's so important to, to be able to practice that and to just do it sort of automatically, because it's so helpful in so many situations.
Yeah.
Like to me, at least, like I tend to be very reactionary and I want to respond right away. And I feel like if I can just remember to take that breath, I may not respond the way I would have, or I may not say anything at all,
Right.
So I think that's really, really powerful.
I agree with you.
It's hard to do.
It is very hard to do. It's very hard not to be reactionary, to really literally take a breath and figuratively take a breath.
And I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, because it's about reaction and response. So we want to shift from reaction, because that reaction can be knee-jerk, it can be, unconscious, but response is conscious. We choose. So actually, I think that if we respond to a situation, that's the key to our freedom.
Yeah.
We're making conscious, responsive choices.
Right.
We're actually starting to come free.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty with a yoga practice or a meditation practice, and I do them, particularly meditation, but I'm not like an enlightened master. I can't. My practice isn't strong enough that it can carry me through the day. It doesn't have the legs.
Yeah.
So what I need is something that's portable, that I can bring with me through the day, so I can just get back into that mindset quickly. And it's like a brain app. Okay, yeah. But if we think about scrolling,
I know.
when we're unconscious, and that's what they want us to. They want us to remain unconscious.
Totally.
They can sell stuff that way, but that is totally unresponsive. We're totally lost.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're just like sheep.
Yeah, we really are. Totally.
You talk about this concept in the book of letting go of ego-driven patterns. Can you explain what those are, and what advice do you have for people that are sort of struggling to identify and release those patterns in their own lives?
I think it's difficult talking about the ego, and particularly talk about transcending the ego, because the ego doesn't really want to be without a job. So the moment you talk about it, there's a sense in which it can creep back in the back door. But I think that anything that's not natural to us and congruent with a loving heart is our ego. So even, our ego can be something like over identification with the thoughts in our head, really is our ego. And thinking that this is where the action is. We're thinking the action is the head. It's not there. We have 70,000 thoughts a day. A lot of that is just jibber jabber, ego generated stuff. And it's only when we get beyond that and get into the quiet of our heart that we actually start to transcend ego. And that's really the destination of all the spiritual paths, whether it's Buddhism or Jainism or even Christianity. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, for me, with my meditation practice, one of the things that I really try, I really try to get out of my head. And it's so difficult. You mentioned we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of those are the same thoughts, right? That we have every day. You're repeating those same things. And I just find it so hard I can do it for like this momentary brief period. And then it's right back to like, how do you teach people to kind of quiet that part of the mind?
I don't think you can. I think what you can do is observe it, because if I say to you, don't think about pink camels,
Right.
so the mind is on its own scrolling track. It will just keep. So I think what we just try and do is we get a gap and we observe it. And I think in meditation, one approach is when you sit quietly and a thought comes up, you say, "Oh, thought." and you don't follow it. Oh, there's a thought, and kind of welcome it, because it's actually it's helping you to return to your meditation. It's only in the chasing of it that we take ourselves out of the meditation, but actually it could be a prompt to awareness. If you say, oh yeah, thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And just almost like a cloud, like just let it float by. See it.
Yeah.
That's what they
always,
by,
I
right?
know that's what they always say when you start. I don't have a meditation practice. I've tried many times. And I don't know, I've enjoyed it when I do it, but I don't have consistency to it at all. And so, but that's what they always say. It's like, let the thoughts
just
float by.
let it just go. Let it go. Don't attach yourself to the thought.
Because if you attach yourself to the thought, it leads to another and another and another.
And then you're out of the meditation. Then you're out.
You're just like,
you're out.
You're just like, yeah.
You've scrolled. You've just scrolled.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You've just scrolled.
Right.
Yeah. Your mind. Yeah. So true. Talk to us a little bit about the Pilgrim Breath. I was reading about your this program that you have, and it to me, I love that phrase, because it just sort of evokes like this journey, right? This like pilgrimage.
And it's also something new.
And it's something new. Yeah. What inspired the creation of that program? And can you tell us a little bit about like what the principles are there?
I think what's inspired it is my love of doing caminos in Spain. So which are long distance walks, and I've done 2 of those.
I've always wanted to do that. Yes.
You won't disappoint yourself. They're very beautiful. But I think what happens after a prolonged walk is that you shed identification with everything, and you just become your breath and your step and your heartbeat, and you're just in sync. It takes a while, but actually that's the destination. It's not going to Santiago de Compostela. It's just letting everything drop away, so you become your breath, your step, your heartbeat. And when that happens, that's enlightenment, really, because everything else has dropped away and you are here now. You're just here in the flow of walking here now. And I found myself in quite a strong storm in October in the mountains of Spain. And it was, the externals were difficult. It was very wet. I was soaked and, sore, and my phone was completely saturated and wasn't working. But I realized, could I take my next breath? Could I just be with the breath? Yeah, I could. I could take the next breath. It was fine. And when I focused on the breath, I was just purely my breath. The externals dropped away, and it didn't much matter if I was in that difficult situation or if I was in the hot shower at the end of the walk. Obviously, I was looking forward to a hot shower at the end of the walk. But it didn't. When you're in your breath, you are in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, it doesn't much matter what you're doing, because you are here now. And when you're somewhere next, you'll be there now too. And the breath, a pilgrim breath, is that our breath threads to a next breath, to a next breath. So it's present moment to present moment to present moment. And when we breathe consciously, we are in those interconnected moments of now. And our life becomes a pilgrimage of our breath. You don't need to walk to Santiago. What we need to do is let everything drop away and just be our breath. That's the pilgrimage of breath.
Yeah. Michael, how long did it take you to sort of master this? Because everything you're saying, it just sounds like a dream. It sounds like, I would love to.
I have to say, I think I'm in a state of relaxation just chatting with you. Like you have a very calming influence.
That's me.
Is it you?
Yeah,
is that what it is? But it's very, it is very calm. You have a very lovely way about you to really have people. You feel like opening up. We feel like telling you our things rather than us asking you questions. And B, it's very calming just hearing your answers to some of our questions. And so I'm with Jen. Like, how long did it take you to get to where you are now?
It took a long time. It took a long time because my ego got in the way. And even I was talking about the 3 halves of my life. Even in the second half of my life, when I given up a lot to become a primary school teacher, my ego was still quite attached to the fact that I was making a sacrifice. But that was just ego. You have to let go of everything. And it wasn't really until lockdown, actually, that I started doing conscious connected breathing that I let go. I think it's about letting go.
Yeah.
And it's only when you fully let go that you can actually say, yeah, I'm that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. This is it. This is it. This is it in the letting go. And because in the letting go, you trust. And you can go with the flow of life. And that's where synchronicity happens, because you're not in the way. You're just part of, you like a tree. It's just growing. It's going through its seasons. And you're plugged into that natural energy. What's for you is for you. You don't have to worry.
Yeah. And you sort of feel that when it's happening, like, when that's happening, right?
Yeah, you do. But I think, again, you know that, and it's very difficult talking about it or even writing about it, because, that's why, because the ego, in the book, I talk about having a holy ego. The ego doesn't want to sort of be made redundant. So it will sort of mutate and find a new way to hook you. So it's staying humble. It's staying childlike and humble, because anything else is ego. And I think that's when if you meet someone who says they're a spiritual teacher or something, I think it's, well, are they coming from their heart? Are they truly coming from their heart? And I think that's the test, because when people truly come from their heart, they're not coming from ego.
You're talking about the ego and the writing of the book. Oh, I was thinking about, like, some of the spiritual teachers that I have followed over the years, and how I feel like, and not all of them, but some of those messages have gotten a little bit diluted, because I feel as though it's become this, it's more of, it's the trend, or it's not real. It's not a real, I don't get that genuine, authentic feeling sometimes from and it's just kind of been over time. I mean, that's not really a question. It's just kind of an observation. I think what you're saying, to your point about writing the book, like, by nature, you're in your head, right? You can't really, you could try to evoke a feeling in people, but it's more about, you've got to write the book. So,
yeah. So, I mean, why don't you tell us, like, if someone wants to get to where you are and walk down kind of that path, what are some first steps that someone, take someone like me, like, I really don't have a practice. Like, what would be one of the first things you would say, okay, to begin a really, like, rudimentary beginning? How would you start?
I would start by setting an intention that this is, you have an earnest desire to, become your authentic, most loving self, and that you're totally open to whatever way that will be revealed to you. The way that it was revealed to me was through the breath and through walking. And I suggest they are good ways. They're simple ways. And I think if you're going to use the breath, I would start with two very simple breaths. I would start with the dolphin breath. I think that's a good one. Just one conscious breath every 8 minutes. I'd also use box breathing. I don't know if you've heard of box breathing.
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't say I practice it, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just do that every, just sort of three in, hold for 3, out for 3, hold for 3, and just do a round of that for 2 minutes, a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
And then I would also perhaps walk. And when you're walking, try and be unplugged and just breathe through your nose. Just in and out, and just flow as you walk. Just so to see a walk as an opportunity, a lovely transition to breathe naturally through your nose. So those would be 3 that I would use. And then I think as you deepen into, and if your intention is saying to you, yeah, this breath is powerful for me, I think the holy grail is conscious connected breathing, and to go to a certified breath worker and have sort of 10 sessions of conscious connected breathing. But a lot of trauma and stuff can come out of that. So you need to be with someone who's going to hold space for you and be a loving presence, and who's qualified, and you don't want to do it in a hall with 20, 30 people. You want to do it one-on-one, so someone is present for you and they can mind you, because you will unlock stuff. You will unlock stuff.
I was just going to say, can you just explain what that is? Because for those that don't know,
What that you
the conscious what
yeah,
is it?
sorry,
Conscious connected
conscious connected
breathing?
with,
Is that what it is?
yeah, it's actually something that was developed in America about 60, 70 years ago by someone called Leonard Orr. So breath work was done a lot in the East, in Taoism and in Hinduism and yoga. But America did with it what America does wonderfully. It kind of took it and revamped it and made it modern and accessible and, kind of super hopped it, and made it really, accessible. So modern breathwork practice started in California in the 70s in hot tubs with snorkels. And people would be in a hot tub and they would just breathe constantly in and out of the snorkel for 20 minutes. And just that presence, not a pause, just that is so powerful that it starts to unlock things, especially when you're in the presence of someone and you set an intention. Like, you could say on your first session, I'd like to just have an insight about the situation with my son or whatever. And you share the insight, and you find out by doing this, the learning is inside you. We have everything we need. We don't need a teacher. We are our own teacher. We just have to get out of our own way and access the stuff. And the breath does that.
I think, like what you said before, it's in the letting go when those things can be unlocked and you're more open to it, which again is not easy to do. But I think that's, I think a lot of people can recognize that in their own lives,
100%.
These synchronicities and things that happen because you've, stopped trying to control it. You've just kind of let it fall. Yeah, I love that. I want to talk about your work with autistic children and adults.
Good.
I just find that really, really, it's a special place in my heart for that. I have a best friend, very close friend, whose daughter is autistic. And I just, I've seen the struggle that she's gone through. Talk to us a little bit about that, and how did that sort of shape your, what you're doing now?
I think for me, it's the nonverbal children who were my best teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because, studies say that sort of 92% of our communication is nonverbal. So you're in that purity of communication. But sometimes for a nonverbal autistic child, they can't tell you if they're sore. They can't tell you if something hurts. They may or may not be able to, if you say, show me, or they may have the receptive language to show you. So what they have to explain themselves is their behavior. And so their behavior can often become a communication, but because we don't always understand it, we're sort of miscommunicating. But when we're on sync with them and we help them to realize what's triggered them, why is this child, for example, hitting their head off the wall, which is something we had quite a lot. And you'd find out that perhaps the trigger was this particular person screaming in the other room, and because that reminded this child of some other situation, that you can actually start to fade that behavior out. But what I discovered was that sometimes situations could be really quite dangerous, because if a child only has communication behavior to communicate with you, that behavior, if they're not being understood, can get more extreme. Because why wouldn't it? Because they're frustrated.
Sure.
So what I knew they needed to do was, you say, like Jade, take a breath. But Jade was in such a state of anger or extreme behavior, that you're not available. Jade wouldn't be available to hear that. So what I found was that to just be and to become the breath that Jade needed to be. So I would try and, in the middle of a crisis with other colleagues around me, I would try and sit still and be the breath I wanted him to be, because I could model it, but he couldn't hear it, but he could feel it. And, the electromagnetic field of the heart is 5,000 times that of the head.
Yeah.
These children totally come from the heart. And if you're coming from your heart, you can change a situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like that, just by being in the moment and by being present. And I found that was actually very helpful. That it also helped me, because I actually find these situations could be quite frightening, for the child.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I was worried about colleagues and somehow sitting down in a chair and trying to breathe and doing it audibly. So, a sigh is that letting go. We were talking about letting go earlier. So if you can just sigh audibly when someone is in stress, it really helps them. And I would often walk around the garden when one particular boy was really wound up, and we just walk around the garden and I just keep sighing very loudly, and it helped. It helped.
Wow.
So my feeling is, if by modeling the breath, you can change a situation for a child, a neurodivergent child in crisis, then what can't it do? What can't it do if it's that powerful? And you can even do it in a lift. Sometimes you can sense people are a bit frazzled in a lift or whatever. And if you emanate from your heart the breath you want them to feel, you can actually change a situation. Like a mum in Costco with 2 toddlers and struggling. Just being there and being present and just trying to emanate from your heart, you will change things. You will change a situation in a way that just engaging with their head doesn't do it. So that's what they taught me.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It is. I don't know if you're familiar with this. So I've started to listen to the telepathy tapes. It's a podcast. Have you heard of this?
I'm just starting to dig into it. Yeah.
You've mentioned that.
It's
to me.
fascinating, and it's everything that you're talking about. How it's nonverbal.
Right.
And showing how there's this real spiritual nature to these kids, and there's this sort of electromagnetic
Right.
Energy that they have that we don't have.
Right.
It's like they can tap into things that we just can't, because
Right.
we're in our heads too much. Like they almost have that sort of filter that we have turned off, right? Am I explaining that correctly?
No, I think you're right. I think the only thing is, I wouldn't say we don't have it. We're not aware we have it.
Right.
Yeah, we don't.
Right.
We don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we're so identified with our heads all the time, and
Yes.
they may not be. They're more coming from the heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really that podcast is so fascinating.
Wow.
As you go through it, I'd be curious to hear your take on it. But yeah, and there's all different stories and different scenarios and kids and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I just found that to be super interesting. I love that. I love,
Yeah.
you can, like you said, you learn so much from kids like that. I mean,
Yeah.
just not only the openness, but just you yourself having patience, having,
Right.
this resiliency, and being able to, if you could do that and connect with a kid, especially nonverbal, where all you need to do is that, where they can feel that energy. That's so,
No, it's very powerful.
it's very, it's like so impactful,
Yeah. You do. You kind of want just everyday people to do that.
do
as
that,
you're
yeah.
walking down the street,
Yeah.
Here in New York, like people are rushing around, going. And
Yep.
then no one stops for a minute. And that's a very powerful energy to kind of impart.
Mm-hmm.
And try it. Just have fun with it. Just experiment and have loving kindness towards people, and exhale for them and breathe for them, and just see how it changes, because I think it does. I believe it does.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What can you share with us what your sort of daily mindfulness practice is? Do you have any rituals or things that you do on a daily basis?
I've become slightly less ritualistic. I did have a very strict meditation practice. But I was finding that, I would do a meditation, and in doing a meditation, I would be it would become a kind of a head thing, because it became like what I was doing, whereas in fact you need to be a meditation. So you really want to have this idea of your life is a pilgrimage of present moment. So this whole idea, my main practice is just one conscious breath. And I think it's because I've had this connection with the rebirthing that I have possibly had that state revealed to me, that I can actually just return there with one breath.
Wow.
Mm. So that's all actually I need to do.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
And do you do that in moments of stress, or I mean, do you get stressed?
Yes, I do. I got stressed at work. Family life I find stressful,
Yes.
rearing kids, because they push your buttons. They know exactly how to get you. And you can't always be present enough, and so that I fail a lot. I fail a lot in that context. I do get stressed.
Yeah. I mean, I think, that's, I think you can probably handle it much better than a lot of other people. But, looking back sort of over time, have any of your philosophies changed or, evolved in different ways? And is there anything that, like your understanding of spirituality, how has that evolved over the course of time?
I think it's simplified. I think that's possibly as a help with the children. I think I probably have moved from the head to the heart. I think that moving from England to Ireland, which, half of my life was in England, half is now in Ireland, that is kind of a move from the head to the heart. They're two wonderful countries, but very, very different. And I think things have just simplified. I don't need to do these big practices. I just need to be here now. And the best way to be here now is just to consciously breathe. There's nothing really to do. We have everything. We just need to peel away the onion until we get to the heart. And all these layers of complexity and busyness and identity, they have to kind of go or be understood to get to the center. And the center is loving presence, and the center is being in our heart. Mm. So it's a case of shedding and letting go. And I write in the book about the children's games of Pass the Parcel. It's a bit like that. We used to play that a lot.
Is it like hot potato?
It may be. We'd have a present. It'd be something wrapped up in newspaper and newspaper and newspaper. And and you pass it around, and all the kids would take off a layer and then take off another layer, and then eventually the music would stop, and someone would have the present. And I said that our life, the first half of our life, we're wrapping up and wrapping up and wrapping up and wrapping up and wrapping up, and we're becoming this wonderful parcel. And our clothes and our education and our jobs and our houses and our status are all part of that. But actually, the return home to ourselves, the return home to our simplicity, is when we unwrap the parcel, when we just become simpler and simpler and simpler. And in the simplification, we come to our core, to our heart. And that's the life journey, I think. The outer journey is wrapping up, and the return journey is unbundling.
Wow.
Yeah, it's almost that it's in the undoing is sort of where you are, right?
Yeah. Look at that. You got a big thumbs up.
I
know. You got a big thumbs up.
I'm learning. But yeah, I think it's like that idea of like unbecoming all the things that you think you're supposed to be, or you have, all these pressures to be, and just undoing all of that.
Right.
Just undoing it.
Yeah, there's nothing actually to learn. That's
I
the truth.
know.
I know. True.
It's just a case of unbundling and simplifying.
Right.
And realizing that all this stuff isn't who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
Well, I think in the unbecoming we become. So once we've got to this place of simplicity, we actually are like the tree that is rooted in the ground, and then life flows through us, and we just find stuff happens to us naturally and organically without too much head stuff. I mean, I'm really quite busy at the moment. I'm doing quite a lot. But it doesn't feel busy. It's just all happening synchronistically. Really, it's not difficult. It shouldn't be difficult. It should be light and fun. I think that's a good. We're talking about a guru, and I think if they're light and fun, then they're on the right path. If it's heavy and arduous, it's probably not for me anyway.
Yeah.
That's true.
Very true. How does your family go along with all these practices, or is it frustrating for them that you're this?
My son thinks I'm a hippie and ludicrous.
He'll learn.
Yeah.
I know my wife's a pianist and she has her own way, and she has moments playing the piano of being totally present. That's her way. And I have no doubt, I know that when she plays the piano, everything else drops away, because I know that after playing the piano, she's so much happier and more centered, because she's had time without thought and without busyness, and she's just been flowing on the piano.
I was just going to say that's sort of the definition of being in flow, right? You just you're there and you're present and you're enjoying what you're doing, but there's a little bit of a challenge to it as well. So you're enjoying that process of,
it's funny. My sister, when she was young, we were all forced to take piano lessons, and I use the word force, but my sister's the only one who really enjoyed it, and so she would just play all the time, and we always knew when she was upset or angry or mad, she would run to the piano, and you would hear her playing, and we would know kind of her mood from that, because it seemed like that was the release. So I totally understand what you're talking about, like, finding that thing that you're doing something because it's like that. You need to do it just to like release and not think, and just.
I feel like it helps to find that creative outlet too. Like there's something about the creativity involved,
especially music.
In that.
I mean, music.
Well, Julie, this is Julie. She's also an artist.
Yeah, my sister's also an artist. She's a ceramicist by trade.
I feel like that is very, just a good way.
I mean, you said, what is a way? I think a way is whatever way to you can be in a state of no thought.
Mm-hmm.
That is the way.
Yeah.
All right. We need to figure out what that is for you.
I know what that is for me. I'm not sure I know what that is.
I'm not really sure I know what it is for me either.
Sure
I just do the things and I hope for the best.
Well, you know.
But it's not easy. It doesn't happen. Even when you're in a state of no thought, a thought will pop up, but you just have to say that we said at the beginning of this podcast, thought. That's okay. I'm just not going to scroll into it. I'm just going to observe it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Don't attach to it.
Exactly.
No.
Right.
Exactly.
Just clutter.
It's just
clutter.
It's mind clutter.
Mind clutter.
A lot of mind clutter
exactly right.
going on.
Yeah, I have a lot of that going on.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This is great.
I've loved talking. I've loved chatting with you.
Tell our listeners where they can find you, and we'll post
the book again.
I just hold the book up.
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely.
Just one
conscious breath
by Michael Wood.
Yeah, so that's me, Michael Wood. And that, you see the dolphin?
Yes.
There's a lovely Zen dolphin.
I love that dolphin.
And we reveal that, obviously, what that is at the end, which I've told the idea of the dolphin breath. So you can, that's available on Amazon, amazon.com in the States.
Yeah.
I have a website. I'm available for, one-on-one sessions, and that's pilgrimbreath.org. And I do rebirthing, conscious connected breathing. We do it on Zoom. I've trained in America.
Great.
Because it's where it came from. So that's where I've gone to. That's me. And I'm currently working on something, a pilgrimage app with an American friend who's over at the moment.
That's amazing. Oh, wow.
So I might give you a shout when we have that up and running.
Yes, please do. By all means, please do.
It's a case of having a 31-day walking retreat. Just maybe spending half an hour a day walking, but listening and turning it into a retreat.
Yeah.
Oh my God, great. I love that idea.
Yeah, me too.
I love that idea.
We'll come to Spain anytime and go on a
I'd like to do a Camino in Spain with you anytime.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to do that. I love Spain, and I've always that is kind of like one of those bucket list kinds of that long 500-mile walk, or whatever it is.
Well, follow your heart.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Are you now consciously breathing? It's a lot of it. You talking to him was so relaxing.
So relaxing. Like, I feel like I need a nap.
I know. It was really like, whoa, like calm.
Right? Don't you feel so calm?
I do.
There is something about that energy that is just contagious.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Even I felt when we first started and I was reading the intro, I think that's the slowest I've ever.
You were reading so
know.
slow.
I was like so relaxed.
Yeah, just his presence gives you that.
Just, made it.
Yeah, I wanted to get a little bit more into that, like the energetic field and this idea of quantum physics and stuff, because that's kind of what we start talking about these nonverbal autistic kids, and that's it really kind of goes back to that and how it's all connected, and that when that vibe that you feel, quote unquote vibe, it's like a real thing. It's like real energy.
Yeah.
But
people never believe that that's real.
I know.
Isn't that so interesting?
I know. But I mean, think about what he's saying. Like, once you stop forcing things, right? Or he didn't really use those words, but I'm using those words.
But
you know what I mean? Like,
that.
And you just let go. Stop obsessing. Stop. And I'm talking to myself here, but things happen. Things will start to happen.
It does always amaze me with you that your desire to do these things is so strong.
It's too much in my head. It's too much in my head. That's my problem.
Look at you. You're croissanting right now.
Oh,
you're
croissanting.
Folding up.
I didn't mean
you're
to
like
croissant.
Folding up.
Sorry.
But your desire is so strong to do those things.
Well, all this stuff is so fascinating to me, and I want to feel what it feels like to.
I know.
Be like this enlightened being.
I think the only time I think I've ever felt like that was when I had acupuncture done.
Oh, really?
I feel like when I was, and I feel like it happened one other time. I feel like you and I did that. I don't know. We were in California and we did a sound bath in like one of these places in Venice. I might have fallen asleep.
Oh, you've definitely fell asleep. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that beautiful place.
Yes,
that's
and we were
like the gardens.
There,
you were
the
asleep.
Pillow.
You were out cold.
I wasn't experiencing some kind of enlightenment.
No,
I was just out cold.
That was a dream you were having. It was a dream. It's hard because you do get to that place where you're so relaxed.
Relaxed. Yeah.
If you're tired, you're falling asleep.
Yeah. So
but anyway, he was great. And how nice is it to just listen to him speak?
Listen to him speak, and he was in his Irish sweater and his stonework Irish house
castle.
Behind his castle. Wow, what a good one.
Yeah, it was great.
We hope you feel as relaxed as we do. I'm Lori Schulweiss.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
This was Everybody Talks.
And we are very sad.
Very. Take care.
For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, and to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shuli, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Join the Everybody Talks community by checking out our Patreon page, where you can become an exclusive member of our wellness group and be a part of the conversation.
And don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweiss and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, and Murray.
Talk to you next time.